you wake up one day and you realize, is this what I want? Do I want to be doing this business for the next 10 years of my life? Mm-hmm. And I had to come to a realization that the answer was no. I had already been waking up feeling like just overwhelmed with the minimal tasks I had to do. I think I wrote in my Instagram post that it started to feel like the jobs that I was trying to escape from. A lot of people say that I'm crazy for doing this. And I was like, but you were with me in the trenches.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey there, Monique here. And before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share a bit of my journey with you. As a first-generation entrepreneur, I know what it's like to start from scratch. I didn't have a lineage of past business owners or a community of mentors to guide me through the process. That's why I created Black to Business and the Black to Business Podcast, to provide resources and support for fellow Black entrepreneurs like you. And guess what? I'm not alone in this mission. Harvard Business School Executive Education shares our commitment to developing leaders making a difference in the world. Their renowned faculty members are skilled educators blending real-world experience with a variety of teaching approaches to create an exceptional learning environment. Visit hbs.me/explore to discover the possibilities that HBS has to offer. Are you ready to take your leadership to the next level? Visit hbs.me/explore today. Tap in, entrepreneurs. Today's episode of the Black to Business Podcast is a tough one, but we have an amazing guide to walk us through it. By the way, I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. So how do you accept letting go of the dream you have built and worked tirelessly towards? What happens when the path leads to a dead end and you're forced to consider shutting down your business? Joining us today is a real change maker, Netta Dobbins, and she talks us through the process of closing your business if you have to make that difficult decision. Netta is a trailblazer behind Mimconnect, a digital and content platform connecting marginalized groups with companies that wanted to hire diverse talent. She grew Mimconnect to a community of over 15,000 professionals with more than $500,000 in revenue, partnering with giants like Google, BET, and McDonald's. Netta achieved unimaginable success being featured in publications like Forbes and Adweek, but that wasn't what she set out to do. When she realized that her company had grown into something she never intended it to, she made the decision to close Mimconnect. Most people shy away from sharing this part of their entrepreneurial journey, and I wanted to talk about it. Soon as we see Netta's post about making this tough decision, I said, maybe other people in our community could learn and gain value from this conversation. Because honestly, when I look around, it's not talked about enough, and it happens. So, we got you. Let's dive into exploring the signs, the challenges, and the triumphs that come with recognizing when it's time to pivot or bid farewell. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I am excited to have you on the show because our topic today is a little different. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Speaking of the topic, today we're talking about something we haven't discussed on the Black to Business Podcast, but I actually saw your post on social media and I'm like, oh, we need her on the podcast about this. So we're talking about shutting down, navigating the entrepreneurial journey of business closure. Let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Can you share a little bit about who you are and how you kind of stumbled into entrepreneurship despite never intending to be an entrepreneur?
I think my story is pretty interesting because, like, you hit it on the head. I never intended on being an entrepreneur. I am from Nashville, Tennessee. I went to college. I got a degree in public relations, and I thought I wanted to be an entertainment publicist. So that I uprooted myself from Nashville, went to New York, did a whole internship, worked in PR for like a couple years, and then realized this is not at all what I actually want to do. So as I was transitioning from PR to advertising and then, getting my advertising chops and just like figuring out what I wanted to do in the media industry as a whole, one thing I continually noticed is that I was often one of the onlys in the room, whether that was the only person of color or the only woman. So, I'm already a transplant. I'm in this big new area that makes me feel small. I'm starting my career. I have no idea what I'm doing. The first thing that I did was start to think about how could I form community among people who may also be, in similar positions trying to navigate their career in the media industry. So I started a GroupMe group chat. Shout out to GroupMe. I added my friends. They added their friends. And in 2 weeks, we had over 300 people in New York City, in LA, in DC, just really spread out across the US, all kind of saying the same story, sharing that they had feelings of isolation, that they were the onlys in their company, not knowing how to really navigate things that may have been said to them or how to get to the next step in their career. So that's when, a light bulb went off and I was like, there's actually an opportunity to build something from the want that this community needs. So we'll talk about how that transpired into Mimconnect. But that's essentially how I stumbled into it. I built a community of people who, had the same experiences. And then a light bulb went off and I was like, okay, there's an opportunity to make an even bigger impact than just having this. That's kind of like the beginning stages of my entrepreneurial journey.
Yes. I love that story because for so many people, they probably started similar and we don't talk about it enough. So how do you navigate that? So yes, speaking of like that transition, what motivated you to then say, okay, I'm going to start Mimconnect. It's going to be a company. And then even talking about how you also transition into Mimconnect eventually full time.
Yeah. So here's the thing too. I like that you said that a lot of people stumble into entrepreneurship because they do. And I feel like the social media gurus and everybody will be like, you have to have a 5-page business plan before you launch. And I'm like, that's literally not true because you can write all this stuff down and you don't even know if it works yet. So get out and try stuff before you actually put pen to paper. So during the GroupMe process, I was just trying stuff. We started by, throwing events, networking events, mostly for people to kind of connect together. And then when I really realized this could be a business was when the people in the group chat were saying, hey, my recruiter at my job wants to talk to you. Wow. They want to focus on recruiting talent. And I was like, what? You want to talk to me for what? Like for what? So then I was like, oh, okay. We can charge companies to help them recruit, diverse talent, which was a hot commodity during the time that we were coming up. This is like 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic. So we started offering opportunities for HR and recruiting personnel to recruit talent from our community. We started doing co-branded events with companies to allow us to bring our community into their offices and just share more. So essentially, we were the middleman to getting the job of your dreams in media for a while. And then there was a point I was doing all this. I was working my full-time job. I was building a company. And that starts to wear on you. And you're like, I'm tired. Like, what is happening? Right. So there was a moment when I was like, okay, I know a little bit about how I can generate income for this business. I had already saved some money, which I think is important for me to say. I had the privilege of being able to save money to take the full jump or a full-time jump, which I think some entrepreneurs just don't have. And I just want to point that out that I was a little privileged in that capacity. Took the jump and then really started to put all of my energy into Mimconnect, made a whole bunch of mistakes, but made a whole bunch of mistakes, which are learning opportunities along the way. So jumped into that. That was like 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, right? And I think it's important for me to talk about the pandemic because it allowed the world to pause. And one of the major things that happened during the pandemic was all these companies realized how behind the ball they were when it came to their DEI tactics or their DEI talent internally. They weren't supporting them or they had none. So 2020 was a major year for Mimconnect because we really got the opportunity to just go quickly and share everything that we've been working on with companies who are now really ready to put money behind it to support their companies.
And then even, because I know we spoke about how you stumbled into entrepreneurship, and that's so powerful, just all the things that you were able to do during that time. And I want to talk about how, although you stumbled into it, how your background, your experiences shaped your approach to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I briefly hit on this, but I had a communications and marketing background, which I think is going to be super important when you're starting a business. So I kind of already had the skill set to know how to market it and to know how to brand it and to know who to talk to, which was another privilege. I will talk about this in a minute too, but I feel like marketing is probably the biggest hurdle that small business owners, startup founders, entrepreneurs in general face. So being armed with that knowledge already was very beneficial for me. And then number two, my products was directly for the community that I was a part of. It was for media professionals. I'm in the media industry, right? Yeah. So I could touch the next person who could be in the Mimconnect community. And the community grew organically because of that, because of my close proximity to the media industry, who the game changers, the playmakers, and the companies were that my community actually wanted to work for.
Powerful. Now let's talk about, you've also touched on this just a bit, but we followed your journey and we followed Mimconnect. So just talking about some of the successful moments and the impact that you all were able to make. So if you could just share some of those successes, including the community that you built, what came out of those communities and those achievements, as well as the revenue. And you had some notable press features as well as some big partnerships.
Yeah, y'all did y'all research. Hey,
yes, you over here.
Yeah. So, like I said in the beginning, I started Mimconnect on accident as a group chat, and in 2 weeks, it had over 300 people. By the time I was in the stage of transitioning away from Mimconnect, we had a community of over 15,000 professionals, all organically, all throughout the United States, New York, DC, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and so forth. With that, also, I was able to build it into a multiple six-figure business, hitting $500,000 in revenue, which I think is an amazing thing to talk about because a lot of Black women small business owners don't even hit that mark. So in the short amount of time, I think this is like our fifth or sixth year at this point, we were able to hit that milestone, which I think was super important. Additionally, throughout all this journey, I feel like Mimconnect was one of the first, not the first, organizations that really focused on diverse talent. And because of that, we did get a lot of publicity for the changes that we were making, for the people that we were getting hired, for the recognitions these companies were getting for working with us. So we were also featured in publications like Forbes and Adweek. I was named top marketer or top woman to watch in the Adweek 2022 Adweek Women Trailblazers Award. And also we were granted an opportunity to have a commercial during the BET Awards by McDonald's because we were featured as a change maker during 2021, right after 2020. So a lot of the efforts we were making were, widely and publicly known, which also led to the increase in our audience and also the increase in the amount of business we were able to bring in.
So these are phenomenal things, all amazing. And so let's talk about this decision to shut down and business closure. So for you, all of these things you mentioned, amazing. So what were those pivotal moments that made you realize this isn't it? It's time to shut down.
A lot of people say that I'm crazy for doing this.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
And I was like, but you weren't with me in the trenches. You weren't there. So the difference with me shutting down Mimconnect is that Mimconnect was doing great. We weren't on a decline or anything. I know a lot of people, they go out of business, so they shut down. We weren't there. We were easily making money at this point. I had a team and everything was kind of like just going as it should with minimal need for me to be there. But then you wake up one day and you realize that like it was an accident. I would never intended to go into recruiting, which is kind of what it shifted into. And you just realize like, is this what I want? And I think what made me really stop and like reflect on all of that is that I'm now in Nashville. Like I'm no longer in New York City. I'm in Nashville. I had gotten engaged. I was talking about, the next 10 years of my life. And I was like, do I want to be doing this business for the next 10 years of my life? I had to come to a realization that the answer was no. I had already been trying to distance myself from the business. I had already been waking up feeling like just overwhelmed with the minimal tasks I had to do.
It's real at that point.
Yeah, it's real. And I was like, I think I wrote in my Instagram post that it started to feel like the jobs that I was trying to escape from. So that's when I was like, okay, I had been sitting with that. And I think people think you wake up one day and I'm going to shut it down. No, I had been sitting with these feelings for at least a year. And I was like, okay, let's say you shut it down. I just said it out loud to myself. I was like, you're going to shut it down just to see how I felt. Like, what did my body feel? Or what did my spirit feel after saying that? And I felt lighter. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is the right move. And it's scary to even think about transitioning out of something that you've been known for, you've built so much success in, you've been recognized for, et cetera, et cetera. But my body was telling me that it was time for something different, if nothing else.
That is powerful. That is powerful. And that was because I did read your post. And that was one of the things I was like, I know. So I've talked to friends who have, experienced similar. And I think that us watching your journey and saying, okay, I think Netta is like the perfect person to talk about this, because it was like all of these things are really going well. And then for you to make that decision, I knew it was so much deeper. So to listen to yourself, like, that's bravery. So we commend you.
And I think too, like I had grown Mimconnect publicly. Like there was no beta. There was no private portions of Mimconnect. Y'all saw everything from the ground up. So I felt like, the child celebrity who's like, you see them growing up and then they're like going off and doing something different now. That's kind of how I felt. So the reason that I posted it publicly was because Mimconnect had grown publicly. Yeah. And I felt like, I think that was the hardest part. It's like in my mind, I was done with it, but I was like, how do I tell these 15,000 plus people who have, found joy, found friendships, found love, found jobs with Mimconnect that, it's going to be no longer. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then I also have a question on because I noticed that you also mentioned like the growth during this time you were making your decision as well. Mm-hmm. Did you see any changes in the market when it came to like DEI and things like that had any influence, or just did you notice anything in general?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely changes in the market. You could read about, the attack on DEI, and even if we take DEI out of it, the economy was just not doing as it should be. So that was very noticeable. I would say that we were able to keep the majority of the partners that we were working with. So we didn't really see like a major financial issue from like sustaining where we were, but in terms of growth, it was harder to like break into new companies with the same pitch around DEI because people were scared. Yeah. Like there were laws being passed. People who shouldn't be running for elections were running for elections. So there was a lot happening. And I understood that too. And my question to myself when I was also thinking about shutting it down was like, do I want to fight against that?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the energy.
That's real. And speaking of energy, so at this moment, you've decided, like you said, you had already made up your mind and then you eventually put it out publicly. In this time, like, how did you navigate those mental and emotional aspects of making this decision?
I cried. Lots of tears because it's like, it's your baby. And you're like, am I really about to do this? I journaled a lot. I talked to I practiced just saying it out loud to people too and seeing their reactions. I think that's what really solidified it and pushed me to actually do what I wanted to do because I started telling people. And I think if I hadn't started talking about it publicly, I probably would still be there and hating it. So that was something, it was kind of like, it was my soft launch to close the project. It's kind of telling our partners and telling some of the people who are working closely with me that, we're about to wrap this up soon. So it was a lot of I think self-reflection, if I summed it all up too. A lot of just sitting with myself, sitting with what I wanted and really vision planning for it. Like, what happens if I stay? How does my life look? What happens if I leave? How does my life look? And the way that I envision my life leaving just looks more appealing to me at that point. So,
got it. And, making this decision, were there any doubts that you faced was there any doubts? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think you always have doubts because once again, like Mimconnect was created and grown publicly. It's what I've been known for. So it's like, if I shut this down, who am I? Like that deep existential question. And I think the way that I got around that is like, do I still want to be as public as I have been? The answer is maybe, maybe not. And then also like, it just kept going back to what do I want for me? And that's the way that I navigated it. I kept reminding myself what it is that I wanted for myself. And yeah, that's how I continued pushing forward.
So for somebody who's listening that might be going through something similar at this moment, what strategies would you say or reflections that you say helped you come to terms with this closure? So maybe is it just I had to look at what I wanted, or what advice would you give to someone who's in a similar situation right now?
Yeah, I think that's it. Because like we don't spend enough time as entrepreneurs worrying about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one mistake that I made. I burnt myself out, and I was burnt out for years. And at the point of like me shutting it down, it's like, I felt like I've given all that I could give. So I think another question is like, what do you want for yourself? And are you done giving? Have you given all that you can give? Have you given enough of what you wanted to give? Is there more in you? Right? I would ask myself that. And then 3, like, what are you going to do next? I think that was a question that I kept asking myself too. If I give this up, what am I going to do? And I still don't know. Like, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, I'm doing some marketing stuff and I'm in business school and all this right now. So I would say, like, if you've given all that you can give, if you reach a moment where you want to focus on yourself, don't rush into the next thing. Like, enjoy, and this sounds crazy, but enjoy the transition. Because there's so much that comes with the transition. There's so much that you still have to feel. Like, I thought I was done feeling all the sadness around Mimconnect, but when I posted that post, I was like, oh no, here it comes again. So just give yourself time to heal and time to just kind of like really soak in the moment before you begin transitioning into something else.
Yeah. And like you said, it's your baby. And it's like grieving. It sounds like it's like another grief.
It's like grief. It is. It's like, like you grieve relationships, you grieve old lives. I think it was like an old life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Now let's talk about dealing with shutting down logistically. So you kind of mentioned, telling my team it's about time to wrap this thing up. So once you decided to shut down, how did you actually go about informing your team, your partners, and other key stakeholders about your decision?
So I had by this time shrunken my team because some of the business that we were taking on just didn't require. So let me take a step back. I had been feeling this way for over a year, right? Within that time, I had realized what aspects of my business am I okay with doing and what aspects of my business have to go. How do we essentially start downsizing the things that we're doing so that 1, I'm not crazy overwhelmed, and 2, we can start taking the baby steps to be able to slow everything down. So that was happening a year and a half or a year out. So I downsized my team. That was the one thing. Before I officially closed, I sent an email to all my partners, kind of letting them know, hey, thank you so much for everything that we've been doing. And these were probably partners that our contracts were probably already wrapping up. For the ones that we were still maybe in the weeds with, I just had a side conversation letting them know, hey, at the end of December, our contract's going to be up and we're going to shut down. Here are other resources. I think my biggest thing with partners was to not like leave them high and dry. And there are so many DEI focused organizations that are around today. So there should be no reason they can't continue to do the work that they were doing with us, with other organizations. When it came to the people who were working on my team, we had weekly meetings and I just kind of took the floor, didn't talk about what we were supposed to talk about. And I just kind of told them, answered any questions. talked about what transition would look like, et cetera, et cetera. I sent out an email to everyone who had helped me along the Mimconnect journey too, to let them know, because I like giving heads ups to everybody who's been a part of it. So sent a heartfelt message just thanking them and everything. Got a lot of, responses. Congratulations. Thank you for your impact. Then I sent an email to the community of 15,000 people letting them know. Mm-hmm. And then, my last thing was the social post letting everybody else who may have not been directly connected with us know about it. That was like the communications portions. In terms of like the legalities and ops and all that. We're still working through that. I think it's important to know that you can say you're going to close a business, but you don't close that business that day. Mm-hmm. There's still things you have to do on the back end to like really close it out. We still got to file taxes. Like, there are a lot of different things there. So I'm still working through all of that, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Definitely. And did you face any resistance or any pushback for those around you when you announced this?
Yeah, but my mind had been made up.
I was going to say, how did you handle it?
No, my mind had been made up. So I was like, once again, you ain't in the trenches. You don't know. But, people have grown up with Mimconnect, so it's been like a very prominent part of their lives. It's like the Reading Rainbow going off PBS or whatever. Like, we were upset. Mm-hmm. So, people are going to have emotions, but by this time I had been so focused on what I wanted that I wasn't really letting that sway me. I know some people mention you can just, hire somebody to do it or run it for you. And then I'm like, okay, I have to train them. I don't feel like doing all that. It was really like I had really reached a point where I just
you was like, I'm over it. No,
I'm over it, which is crazy. It's just crazy to think that I never would have thought that I would reach something like a point like that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I had like I said, my mind was made up. People were offering different paths, but that's not what I wanted. And at the end of the day, it's my business. So yeah,
that's real. So now let's talk about life after shutting down and then this transition into new beginnings. So I know you mentioned that you're still figuring it out. So how did you cope with those feelings of imposter syndrome and starting fresh in a new career path? Because now you're doing I think you're doing some other things. So let's talk about first that. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of different things. So January of last year, I took on an opportunity to be Tennessee's Grow with Google digital coach. Mm-hmm. So in this role, I get to help small businesses throughout the state of Tennessee really understand how to grow and scale their companies utilizing digital tools, marketing, Google-specific tools, and things like that. So it's been fun to be able to connect with small business owners and just utilize my past marketing background. Mm-hmm. Plus everything I've learned through the Grow with Google program and in my own entrepreneurship journey to help them scale up. And then as an extension of that, I recently launched my own marketing agency where I'm really kind of acting as a content marketer and or fractional CMO, small businesses, startups, and nonprofits to help them grow. So everything that I'm still giving at the end of the day, I feel like people are like, how do you go from this to this? And it's still the same amount of effort. I'm still doing something that I'm passionate about, which is helping people reach their next level. It's just now I'm focused on businesses versus when I was focused on people in corporate America. So yeah, that's the transition. I'm excited about it. Once again, still getting my bearings, still figuring out what my focus is going to be, but it's been definitely exciting.
That's good. That's great to hear. And so what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are navigating these new beginnings or contemplating this career change?
Feel all the emotions. Mm-hmm. I think that's number one. Feel all the emotions. Know that, you can do whatever it is that you set your mind, heart, spirit out to do, as long as you have the skill set to do it, I think is important to say. Like I built a very successful business, right? And now I've been a marketer. Like I've worked with multi-million-dollar brands, and now that I'm like transitioning into into my own marketing agency, I'm like, oh no, I don't know what to do anymore. What it's like, what are you talking about? You've done this, or you've done this work. Like relax, you got it. So I think what I have actually done is I continually rewrite my biography to remind myself of everything that I've accomplished all my skill sets and things like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, you got this, girl. So I think just continue to reflect on who you are, what you've done, and your skill set, and I think you'll be fine.
Love that. And that makes me think about one of my questions is, did you encounter any unexpected opportunities or discovery during your transition period? I do want to ask that question, but then you saying that also makes me think about discovering that you know this, you got this because you've been doing this, and just tapping into yourself. Yeah. So were there any other unexpected opportunities or discovery that you realized during this transition period?
Like unexpected me discovering myself again, essentially?
Like opportunities that came about, and how did you begin to leverage them?
Got it. Yeah. So yes. Soon as I posted that post and like started sharing about what I was doing with my own agency as well as the Grow with Google program, money came. I think that's the biggest thing that I want to call out. It's like, you know how to make money in one arena and you're like, okay, you know, I'm about to transition again. When I first started Mimconnect, I had a job. So I was like, okay, I have money saved up to help when I make new money, right? This time, you know, I had some money saved up, but it's like, I don't have like a cushion in case this don't work out, right? So as I started sharing and just like re-believing in myself again, people were reaching out. People wanted to work together because they'd seen me grow Mimconnect. They remembered that I had a marketing background. They've seen me host all these Grow with Google workshops and the knowledge that I bring to that. So the money came. And I think another thing is like, I'm a spiritual person. So I believe that God paves the way for you and what he has planned for you is yours, regardless of how you feel about it. Right. So I was scared and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And when I leaned fully into it, everything kind of worked out. Like I was even looking at full-time jobs at one point. I was like, maybe I'll just, get a job and chill out for a little while. And God was like, you don't need to do that because you do good over here. I think when you realize like your abilities, what you're passionate about, your skill set, and you just like lean into that fully, things tend to work out, at least for me.
Yeah. And I love that. And I want to take a step back, Netta, because we kind of talked about what you did afterwards. But I also want to ask about how did you identify what your next steps will be after shutting down? So what are some of the factors that you consider in those decision making? So, for example, going with Google Digital and then also going into marketing, like how did you make those decisions?
They landed in my lap. Honestly, like I feel like things for me sometimes are just like ordained and I just wake up and God's like, do it. But no, the Grow with Google opportunity came because of the connections that I had made in New York through the work that I was doing with Mimconnect. They saw that I had moved to Tennessee. They were looking for somebody to kind of take over the Tennessee market. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. I got you. So started doing that. And then from utilizing and working with the Grow with Google program and the workshops and talking to the small business owners about their gaps and like what they needed, I realized that a lot of them just really did not understand marketing at its core. So that's kind of what led me to be like, okay, there's another problem that I've kind of just accidentally stumbled upon. So let me create a solution around it, utilizing the skills that I've acquired over these past 10 years. So once again, still kind of stumbled into it. It wasn't like I am going to sit here and write out the next 10 years tactically. But it was an opportunity that I saw and I had the skill set to help.
Phenomenal. So on the Black to Business podcast, we do like to break it down and give some step-by-step. So I want to end this off with, for someone who's listening, like recognizing when it might be their time and some sort of practical guide for them. So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are grappling with that decision on whether to continue or to quit?
1, listen to your mind, listen to your heart, listen to your gut, right? Because at one point, all 3 of those are saying a different thing for me. My mind was like, you making money, you fine. My heart was like, maybe. And my gut was like, fuck no, get out of here.
And that is real. The gut is real.
The gut is real. And I think you just really, really listen to what that's telling you. And know that just because you shut it down, you're not a failure. I think that's the biggest, that's another thing that I face. I was like, people are going to think that I failed. And I don't even care. Like people do not think of you as much as you think that they think of you. And you have to do what's best for you at the end of the day. So I'm not saying if you hit a hard spot in the road to shut down, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to take a lot of L's. Those are learning lessons is what I call them. But when you get to a point where you just like your body is having a visceral reaction to something that you once loved, it may be time to figure out a new path, or at least transition a business in a way that makes you as the founder happier again.
Great advice. And are there specific signs or indicators that entrepreneurs should pay attention to when considering to shut down their business?
I mean, money, financials is always important. So if you're like continually year over year not making money, I mean, that's a sign. If you are making money, and once it's I don't know, my situation is just like, I feel a lot different because it's just my body telling me that it's time. So that's gonna be like the main thing for me. Listen to the market. Like, are people actively still talking about and wanting what it is that you're offering? Because that's gonna go into how much revenue you're able to make too. So we can talk about like the operation financial parts all day, but that wasn't the motivator for me. It was more so like what I wanted for myself, and it didn't align with what I was building.
Love it. And any steps or advice or tips entrepreneurs can take to objectively assess the viability and sustainability of their business before making that decision? So I think you kind of touched on like the money part. Anything else you would add?
The money is going to be the biggest factor. Are you able to generate it? Are people interested in your product or service? I would also, because Mimconnect, we built a community first, like a lot of the services or the events that we hosted was because we were listening to our community, right? So what is your community saying? If you have a community focused service or product, like what are they saying about it? Are there iterations you can make to make your audience happier? I think the biggest thing you need to do is listen to the market. If you want to get tactical, that is the biggest thing you can do is listen to the market and see what the market is saying about what it is that you're building. Look at your revenue, and not even revenue, because you could have like so much money coming in and you are also spending even more money. So you don't even have a profit, right? I would definitely recommend. So me, I'm not like a math girly. So I had to hire people to help me with that. So hire advisors, hire fractional financial officers or accountants or people that you trust to help you really analyze things beyond what you know today. And I think all of that data is super important and can help you really decide what to do next.
Sound advice. Netta, this has been phenomenal. And I want to end off by talking about the work that you are doing and how you are helping entrepreneurs in general. So how can your experience and expertise help our audience, especially those who are facing maybe marketing troubles or just doubts or changes in their businesses? So talk about your services and offerings.
Yeah. So once again, I'm Tennessee's Grow with Google Digital Coach. I help small businesses unlock opportunities to create revenue generating businesses that everyone should know about. So I host a variety of free workshops where you can come learn about marketing, learn about growing your business. I'm also a marketing coach. So if you have more specific questions, we can work together to answer just and things like that. And then I think last but not least, like my newsletter is probably the biggest resource that I would refer to you all. I send out a weekly newsletter. It's called The Small Business's Guide to Marketing. And I share tactical tips that can help you start really generating revenue, engagement, views, et cetera, for your business. And I send it out weekly. So definitely look into all of that. And you can always DM me if you have any more specific questions.
Yeah. And one of my other follow-up questions to that is, so are there any kind of different types of business owners that you assist, or what does that process of working with you as a coach look like?
Yeah. So I don't really have like a focus on clients right now. Well, I do. I've been working predominantly with small businesses, nonprofits, and startups. I would say they're probably all under 20-ish people right now. multiple industries. Like I've done healthcare, I've done retail, B2B, SaaS, all that. The way that it typically works is that there's a form on or a contact page on my website where you can reach out, let me know that you're interested. We will do a quick assessment for me to see, can I actually help? Are we the right fit? Does it make sense for where you are at your business? Do you even know exactly what you're asking for? And is that what you need? From there, we start to schedule out bi-weekly or monthly sessions to really work towards the goals that we craft together around marketing in relation to growing your business. So it's definitely an ongoing process. I like to say, think of it like therapy. I'm not here to do for you, but I'm here to help you uncover the answers and give you the tools to uncover the answers for yourself. I believe that, once again, a lot of small business owners just don't know enough about marketing to be dangerous. So I'm kind of like a coach, teacher in that aspect to help train you to know enough to run your business and really understand how marketing drives revenue for it. So
love that. And Netta, what advice, because you've helped lots and tons of entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to someone in their first year of business?
Hold on. It's a bumpy ride.
That is good.
It's good. Like, just hold on. I think, especially with social media and people saying, I made $100,000 in a year, in a month, or whatever. Like, success does not come that quick for most people. So you have to really be patient with it. Forgive yourself. Give yourself grace. You're still figuring it out. And you don't know what you don't know until you come across it. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that I should actually be doing that, right? Once again, I stumbled into entrepreneurship my first year. There was so much that I didn't know that I just had to figure out. I was throwing things at the wall, just trying to see what sticks for like 2 years. But then once you have really honed in on who your audience is, what your service is, how to actually talk about it, which I think is the biggest hurdle, is how do you talk about your product or service in a way that other people care enough to buy it, not in a way that like you talk about it because, you got to sell it to your audience. Once you like really hone in on all that, you hone in on your confidence, you get out of the imposter syndrome cycle, it's going to all be worth it. So just hold on.
Love that. And one of my final questions is, are there any tools or resources that have really been beneficial to you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, yeah, so many. I feel like I have a whole tech stack at this point, but I would say in your early days, you want to read a lot. You want to read a lot about your industry. You want to read a lot about your competitors. So make sure that you're just keeping up with them. 1. 2, I set up Google Alerts. That's a tool. I set up Google Alerts for my competitors, or like keywords, diversity in media and things like that. So that I was always abreast of what was happening. 2, what's another tool? Analytics. You need to look at your data, especially if you are selling stuff online. So make sure that Google Analytics is connected to your website and that you're looking at it to really understand user behavior. What are they doing when they get to your page? Are they even coming to your page? What are they buying mostly, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to help you really understand if like your website and your messaging on there is resonating with the people you're trying to attract. What else can I say for early business people? AI is a game changer. I know everybody's talking about you need to be using AI, but you really, really do. It's going to save you a lot of time once you get used to using it. And you're going to also be able to just generate things quicker, especially when it comes to like content marketing or ideas around how to market your brand. So those are probably like the top 3 things that I would suggest tool wise. And then also subscribe to my newsletter because I'm going to give you those in your inbox weekly. So
love it. And then my final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
What does it mean to me to be Black in business? I think it's very powerful for me, even though I stumbled upon it. I think it's very powerful. It's very encouraging. I'm a Black woman from the South who has generated over $500,000 in revenue. A lot of people can't say that. And I feel like I am a role model for a lot of emerging business owners, especially Black women in Nashville and beyond. So I love it. I love having the opportunity to continue to pour into people. I love being, someone that people can look up to and ask questions to and ask to mentor them on different things. So it makes me happy.
Yes, love that. And how can people find you and support you and connect with you?
Yeah, so I am at Netta Dobbins, NettaDobbins, literally everywhere. I'm most active on Instagram and LinkedIn, so shoot me a follow request, send me a note, and I would love to get to know all of y'all.
Love it. Well, Netta, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story on the Black to Business podcast. It was phenomenal, and thank you just for the work that you do. So thank you again for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you all for having me.
And that's what you call keeping it real. I love that we had Netta on the podcast and that she shared her journey. And I just loved her transparency, staying in tune with her emotions throughout this process, and ultimately doing what was best for her. So as we come to a close on this episode, I am also reminded to have gratitude for the journey we're on as entrepreneurs, even when we don't know what our next steps are. A huge thank you to our incredible guest again, Netta. I am so glad she shared her experiences and insights with us about navigating the journey of business closure. And most importantly, whatever you decide, I want you to know that closing your business does not define you or it doesn't make you a failure. So you have to do what's right for you, and you also have to pay attention to those signs. If you find today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you the content that resonates with you. So for more information about Netta and how to connect with her and support her, visit blacktobusiness.com/192. And a big thank you to you for showing up for yourself today and being a part of the Black to Business family, because together we are shaping the future of Black entrepreneurship. I want you to keep striving, keep growing, and I will catch you again next week for another episode. But until then, stay resilient, stay ambitious, and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.